Sorry.
We were excited to
or the meeting is called to order in order to allow you to speak. So I'm just gonna take a glance around and make sure if I see someone going for a quorum, we'll hold off a minute. Otherwise, we'll start in just a couple of moments. Thank you. All right, welcome everyone. It is 6 o'clock, so we're going to call our meeting to order. All board members are present. The notice of the meeting was published in the July 24th, 2026 issue of the Star, and copies distributed to the Prairie Media Center and correspondence for the Wisconsin State Journal and Capital Times newspapers. A revised notice was also duly posted and distributed on July 24th, 2026. And I am just looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second. Motion by Sung, second by Stephen. All in favor? Aye. Wonderful. Please join me for a pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The mission of the Sun Prairie Area School District is to inspire and prepare every child every day by providing relevant, engaging, and innovative learning experiences in and out of the classroom.
The SPASD celebrates and values our diverse community. We support and are inclusive of all students, staff, families, and community members of all races, ethnicities, faiths, national origins, home languages, socioeconomic status, immigration status, political viewpoints, abilities, sexual orientations, and gender identities.
In order to realize our mission, we are committed to changing the foundational inequities that we acknowledge exist in our system, and we unequivocally state as follows. We stand by our Black and Brown students, staff, and families. We will continue to speak and act swiftly against statements of bigotry, social injustice, discrimination, racism, and hate that may plague members of our community. We are committed to developing and implementing strategies and best practices that dismantle racism, bigotry, and ethnic oppression within all aspects of our schools and school district.
We stand by our immigrant students, staff, and families. All are welcome and safe in our schools, regardless of immigration status.
We stand by our students, staff, and families with disabilities. We will continue to staunchly protect the rights of people of all abilities and create educational environments in which all educators collaborate for high educational outcomes for all students.
We stand by our LGBTQIA+ students, staff, and families. We take seriously our responsibility to provide safe, non-discriminatory, and inclusive environments for people of all orientations and identities as they reflect our diverse community.
We stand by our students, staff, and families of lower socioeconomic status. We will do all we can to meet the nutritional, physical, and emotional needs of all students, regardless of their economic status. All children will be safe and loved in our schools, every child, every day. All right, wonderful. And then we moved our agenda around a little bit to accommodate some guests that we have. So we're gonna go to section 2 is our community connections tonight. And we can start with district and community updates. And so if our guest Prairie Hodgson would like to come forward to kind of introduce everyone else who's in the room here, that'd be great. Or yeah, feel free. Yeah.
Correct. Okay. Thank you. It's really a joy to be here today. My name is Greg Miller. I'm with Operation Fresh Start, and I'm here today with my colleague Faith Huff, as well as Caleb Jesper, who is one of our two graduates from Southern Prairie schools through our partnership with our legacy program. So I want to recognize Caleb Jesper, graduated this in June, as well as Jonathan Lopez-Diaz, who graduated a few months back as well through this partnership. So for us, our commitment at Operation Fresh Start is to serve young adults, emerging adults in Dade County. We've been doing that since 1970. We've been serving Southern Prairie youth since the 1970s. During the almost 20 years that I've been involved with Operation Fresh Start, we have been building almost nonstop homes here in Southern Prairie. Currently, Caleb is working on a house on Kempershire Drive over by pretty close to Southern Prairie East High School. It's maybe the 5th or the 6th house on that street alone that we have built. All of those are affordable homes built here. We're one of the only organizations in the county that builds new affordable homes, and those homes are built by participants in our legacy and our Build Academy programs. We're really proud of the work that the young people do, and it's made possible through partnerships. So in our legacy program, Caleb came in and he not only worked on core academics, but he also worked on doing conservation and construction work throughout Dane County. So he was getting earning wage as well as getting mentorship and core competencies in academics as well as career development support. So proud of that partnership. We love to see our partnership with Southern Prairie schools continue to grow. One area that we see a lot of growth in is we have, I believe it's 54 Southern Prairie graduates applied to our academy in the last 2 years. So like Caleb, coming into our Build Academy, our Conservation Academy, also seeking to take advantage of our Career Point and career coaching programs. So these are high school graduates looking to move forward into living wage jobs, gain skills, training, as well as mentorship as they move into the next phase of their lives. So love to continue to explore other ways that we could support Southern Prairie students and continue to build partnerships with Southern Prairie schools.
Wonderful. Caleb, do you want to share anything about your experience?
My experience with Crush Star was amazing. I learned so much from Legacy and learning about new plants and invasive species. But it taught me a lot. It taught me to wake up every day, to go to work and help the community and take out invasive species.
Wonderful. Any board members have comments or questions?
I just want to say how awesome it is that you guys are doing this. And Caleb, props to you on participating, as I know it can be daunting, especially as such a young person, to want to take on that kind of responsibility. And so congrats to you, that's really awesome. And I hope that you have I know that you'll have a bright future thanks to all that you've done.
Caleb also is coming here today after working all day outside.
I was just curious about the program itself, like who is the target population, like how, and what are you looking for in the students that are the young adults who are applying to the program?
So at Operation Crush Star, we have 7 different programs serving young adults between, each of the programs is slightly different, but between ages of 16 and 24 years old. So we're looking at that emerging adult population. And our mission is to build a path to self-sufficiency for emerging adults through education, employment training, and mentorship. So each of our programs seeks to bridge gaps that exist for young adults. So if you think about what young adults need to move into living wage careers, to be self-sufficient members of our communities, then our goal is to build those bridges to bridge those gaps. So whether it's high school completion through our legacy program, or it's specific career training in our academies, so getting into construction and conservation careers, or it's career coaching for the young adults who may have finished high school but aren't sure exactly where to go next, or maybe they have an idea of what they want but they're not sure how to get there. They can get one-on-one career coaching through our career coaching program. We also, a significant barrier for a lot of young adults is the lack of a driver license. So we have a driver license program for 18 to 24-year-olds. So supporting them and getting, and that's all paid for. All our programs are free to young people. Some of them, like the academies, are paid training. Others are free programs or might come with a stipend. Our Career Point program is focused on industry partnerships. So looking at kind of building partnerships with industries where there's maybe a small barrier to entry, so certifications that might be needed. So right now we have cohorts in financial services, banking, healthcare, and early childhood education. So early childhood education, we partner with Reach Dane and 4Cs. So the young folks are coming in, they're getting professional development training, they're getting classroom experience with Reach Dane classes, and they're getting certifications through 4Cs. And at the end of that, they're getting hired at a very high rate. Pretty much everybody's coming through and then winding up with a job in early childhood employer in the area. And that's kind of the model we want to be followed for our Career Point program. So expanding into other areas where there might be opportunities where there's maybe 6-10 week training programs, certifications, but support, and then support in professional development during that so that young folks can move and use the skills that they already have and move into higher wage self-sustaining employment.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation, for explaining all that to us. I guess my only question for you is, what would be your hopes for how the Sudbury schools could partner with you better?
Yeah, we in recent years we've had about 2 or 3 graduates in the last few years. So we've been partnering with administrators and some staff to identify folks like Caleb and Jonathan to come through. We have a couple right now that are enrolled with us and working towards a diploma. So I guess we would like to be an alternative route to graduation for young folks who are maybe struggling to find a route through the existing. Some areas lucky to have PPA and other alternative options here, but if there are options that aren't working for young folks, we'd like to be an option there. And then for post-secondary, planning, and so as, thinking about the counselors' work, we, whether it's career coaching support, our career coach has done a lot of work. He actually used to work at PPA. And so he's got a lot of connections here in Sun Prairie and has served a lot of young folks. So whether it's career coaching support as young folks who are approaching graduation, or it's, kind of connections into our academy programs or into our career point program. So we'd love to be to serve your graduates as they're kind of coming and figuring out what those next steps are as they're coming towards the end of their senior year.
Awesome, thanks.
The only thing I was wondering, and maybe you touched on it a little bit, is like, do students and young adults find you guys, or is it kind of organized through the counselors? Or I heard you mention principals, just kind of wondering how you guys actually get connected.
Yeah, for our legacy program, our high school completion program, each school district's a little bit has their own kind of process, I guess. And so right now, Jennifer Epideka, Sarah Chaja-Clardy have been really great partners. There's a couple of teachers and case managers that have been really good partners, kind of helping. So that's the case for Caleb. So something we always want to know, kind of for each district, like who's that contact person, right? Who's that person who's going to say yes? Let's move this young person forward. Jennifer Epideka and Sarah Chaja-Clardy have been that for us here. And I think we built a nice system over the last couple of years. But then you want counselors to know kind of us as a resource, as is appropriate, and kind of I think each district kind of has their own things that they offer in-house and kind of how they want to use us as an option. So I think that's up for each district to determine kind of what would be the criteria or the kind of when would a referral be made to Operation Fresh Start versus another in-house alternative option. So we'd be happy to explore and support that.
Thank you.
I just want to say I think this is super cool, and thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing this with us.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. I want to read everything.
Okay, wonderful. One last question. It's okay if you don't know, but what are your hopes and dreams from here? Congratulations on finishing your program. What's coming next?
For my degree. My hopes and dreams are, after I finish the academy, I'd like to go into Findorf, a big company of construction, and hopefully my dreams are to do concrete.
Wonderful. Thank you to Haley for suggesting that. Can we get a little picture before you all leave? Would you mind? You can come around for a moment.
We have someone take it.
Yes.
Yep, I can take it.
You take one of mine, please. You guys can.
Right in the middle. Yeah, the front row.
I'm behind you.
Here, 1, 2, 3. One more, 1, 2, 3.
Wait, hold on, take one. That's okay with my
Yeah.
Three. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, just,
Oh, yeah. No, we don't. We don't take filters. Yeah. Yeah.
However you hear about it.
So you can work.
Cool, thank you.
Alright. Feel free to go.
Okay, and then I'm gonna bring on the spot soon with the whole community connection section up. So I know you're usually at the end, but do you have any legislative updates to share with us?
Well, there really isn't a lot going on right now, but Kalina and I talked, last week, about plans moving forward of what she and I will be working on this year. And, I think the main thing this summer to be thinking about is just about voucher transparency, which is still trying to figure out where that's gonna land and who's gonna be in charge of it. So, but yeah, that's I think the next big thing coming up. And do we have an election? Or do we have, anyway, vote. Election on August 11th, so.
Okay, and again, usually this is at the end, but do you have any student updates for us? I know it's summer, but do you have anything to share?
I mean, not much, because, I mean, it is summer, but I guess we're all excited for school to start again.
No, not really. Summer's good.
Okay, wonderful. And then our upcoming board meeting schedule is there as well. Okay, so then we also put our superintendent consent agenda a little earlier in the meeting this time. So just looking for a motion to approve.
Motion to approve 3.01, 3.02, 3.03.
Second. So motion by Davis, second by Stephen, and we can roll call that one, please.
Davis,
Yes.
Grayson,
Yes.
Horton.
Yes.
McFarland,
Yes.
Stephen,
Yes.
Song,
Yes.
Willingham.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
Wonderful. And with that, we have some congratulations and some guests in the room. Did you decide an order? Where do you want to start?
No, we didn't decide an order, but I'm happy to go ahead and
Okay,
start. So I'd like to invite Barb Kempkin up. This is Barb's first board meeting since being approved as our new school nutrition director. Barb's coming to us most recently from working at Harvard University in Massachusetts as their residential dining director, but has extensive experience in K-12, and we're so excited for her to be here, joining the team, taking over for Barb Wara, who retired at the end of June, who also did some great things in the role, and we're looking forward to continued great work from Barb K instead of Barb W. So Barb, you're welcome to unmute them or turn on the mic and say a few words if you want.
Okay.
We're really grateful to have you here.
Well, I'm grateful to be here. Thank you very much. Yes, I feel like Barb for Barb, easy transition. Everybody's like, oh, I don't have to learn a new name. I was like, is that part of the criteria? Oh, Barb, we should talk to her. No, I'm very, very happy to be here. I've been in higher ed the last 10 years, and while I enjoy that because it's a different type of challenge, I'm very excited to get back to K-12 because it's really where my passion is. And, just happy to be part of such an awesome district that clearly has students at the center of all the thinking, and just want to bring all of my experience to this role and hopefully get kids excited about school food, which can be a challenge, but I'm all for it. So thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, I know she's definitely up for it. So thank you, Barb.
Thanks.
Welcome.
Chris, do you want to go next?
I just want to introduce our new director of school operations, Trisha Rody. She's most recently coming to us from Prairie, where she was a middle school principal, rather than assistant principal in the same district. Extensive experience in teaching, did a wonderful job in the interview process, and very detail oriented, very, very knowledgeable. So I just want to welcome her into our district. You can say.
I'm just really excited to be a part of the team and join the team. So I'm very the district that I've had my eye on for a long time, and I'm really excited to join the team of really effective educators.
All right, thanks. Sorry, turn to Dr. Turner.
I am excited to announce our new Director of Secondary Teaching, Learning, and Equity, Ms. Sarah Frankie-Klein. And if I could, I'd like to read a little bit about her. She will be joining us as the new Secondary Director of Teaching, Learning, and Equity. And she comes to us with a wealth of experience in teaching, school leadership, and central office administration. Sarah's career in education has been centered on supporting students, empowering staff, and building systems that help schools thrive. Over the years, she served in leadership roles, including Director of School Operations, Associate Principal, Student Services Coordinator, and Special Education Teacher, as well as an instructional leader. Throughout her career, she's focused on creating collaborative environments where educators feel supported and students have the resources they need to succeed. Sarah believes in using data to drive continuous improvement, strengthening instructional practices, developing proactive student support systems, and fostering meaningful relationships with staff, students, families, and the community. Sarah is passionate about equity, inclusive leadership, and continuous learning. She enjoys working along teams to solve challenges, improve systems, and celebrate successes together. Her goal is to listen, learn, and build strong partnerships as we work towards providing the best possible experiences and outcomes for every student every day. Welcome, Sarah. We're glad to have you.
Thank you, Dr. Turner. Thank you, everybody, for your continued belief in me. Serving at Center Heights was such a wonderful opportunity. I will miss every second of supporting our students and staff and parents, but I'm very excited to take on this larger role, supporting all of our secondary students, staff, and families. Thank you.
And another lovely transition of a Sarah for a Sarah. Okay, and we have one more introduction, Dr. Reed, if you're ready.
Yes, last but not least, is Malita Bevnu. Now, she has extensive experience in communication. She is our new hire for Director of Strategic Communication. She comes to us from UW-Madison. She's worked in a myriad of roles. She has a background in marketing, strategies, serving the community, and then she's a great advocate of the community. So I'm excited to welcome her to our team. So I want to welcome Marlita Bevin.
Thank you, everyone. Am I on? I'm Marlita. I said we have the Sarahs, we have the Barbs, any other Marlitas? I didn't think so. But very happy, very honored to be here with the school district. Like Dr. Reed was saying, I have a background in marketing and communications. I started with UW, got my undergrad in strategic communications and journalism, went on to Marquette in the same field. So I've actually never not worked in communications. It has been with me since I graduated from UW in 2005. So a long career in visual storytelling, digital media, and marketing. And so I'm here with the district. I'm so excited to be working with you all. I have an open door policy, so after today, you'll know how to reach out to me, communicate with me, email me, and I am available to you and here to serve the Sunbury community. So thank you.
All right, so welcome to all of you. And just because you're here to be introduced does not mean you have to sit through the whole night. You're welcome to stay, and also don't feel obligated to stay as we move on into the rest of our agenda. So up next, we have our public comment period. And the board appreciates feedback and values the opportunity to further our collaborative partnership with the community through the productive and respectful exchange of ideas, concerns, perspectives, and experiences. Your public comments empower the board to make more informed decisions and authentically represent our constituents. While we're not able to respond immediately due to the Wisconsin Open Meetings Law, please know that our governance officer is tracking common themes and issues that arise during public comments. This will help us identify issues that need immediate attention and also make plans to address areas that need further discussion in the future. In alignment with our district's core values, we ask that all participants help us ensure this remains a welcoming environment in which all students, staff, parents, and caregivers and community members are valued and treated with respect and dignity. So a few reminders. The public comment portion of our board meeting is governed by Board Procedure 8, which is available on our website, and a copy found by your intent to speak forms at the back of the room. Speakers must be a resident of the district, a staff member of the district, a student in the district, or a parent or caregiver of a student who is enrolled in the district. Each speaker has up to 3 minutes to speak, with the public comment period lasting no more than 30 minutes total. If you have any complaints or concerns about school personnel, we ask you to submit those complaints via district policy and procedures EDDI. And I will now recognize speakers in the order in which they registered. When you come up, please just state your name and your relationship to the district, and then we will start your time. And we have one person who submitted online. It's Nadia, is it Morrison? Yes. Come on up, and just again, if you, I know probably have to click the mic on, and then just start with your name and your relationship to the district, please.
My name is Nadia Morrison. I am, now a resident of the district. I just graduated from Prairie West, but yeah. Good evening, members of the board. My name is Nadia Morrison. I am here because of a camp I attended for people with disabilities called the Wisconsin Youth Leadership Forum. I'm here tonight to talk about the prevention of bullying and people with disabilities. But first, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I was diagnosed with ADHD in 3rd grade and I'm getting evaluated for autism next month. This means that I might talk or act a little bit differently than other people without meaning to. This has led me to be socially marginalized and left out by my peers and bullied. But I know I am not alone. So many others like me have been teased, bullied, and left out because of their disabilities. Now, don't get me wrong. There has been tremendous progress in stricter punishment of bullying in the school system, but I feel that children need to be educated earlier, at a younger age about disabilities and bullying, because when kids are younger, they're more receptive. They will learn early on that people with disabilities are just normal people who need a little extra help with certain things. Because people with disabilities deserve as much love and respect and dignity as everyone else. And if people don't take the time to get to know people with disabilities, they're missing out on so many amazing people with interesting lives and unique personalities. Thank you so much and have a great night.
Okay. That is our only public commenter for the night. So thank you for taking the time to be here and to speak to the board. Please know you can always reach out to all of us via email at schoolboard@sunprairieschools.org or set up a time to speak with one of us to continue a conversation. If you brought up a specific operational concern, you can expect a member of district administration to reach out shortly to follow up. And that concludes our public comment period. So up next, we have our superintendent's report. So 5.01, our 2026-27 preliminary budget review for the public hearing.
So 5.01 and 5.02 really kind of go together. The board itself has already seen much of what was included in that screencast regarding the development of the 26-27 budget. But this is our annual opportunity to share that information a little more publicly with the public. His screencast was recorded early and included in some of the communications about tonight's meeting. It's also linked in Diligent for people to access. So happy to go about this any way that the board wants to in terms of allowing members of the public who are here to comment on the development of the budget for 26-27. Matt, did you have anything else to add?
Only thing I'll add is that we do have.
Here we go.
Only thing I'll add is that we do have physical budget reports in the back. If anyone is looking for a more itemized look at our budget, we have it by fund and by object for community and board, whoever else is interested.
Did you say by fund and by object?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
So I encourage anyone to take a look if they have questions. Obviously, tonight's a good time to ask those. Otherwise, anyone can always reach out to me after the meeting.
Wonderful, and I wonder, do we want to start with any comments, like, just the way it's agenda, like the public hearing after this one? I know you just said it's kind of combined, but do board members have any comments or questions just on the presentation for the 5.01 item before we move into a more open comment? Do you want to start? Go first. I know it's agendaed this way, but are we okay with that? You good?
Yeah, my personal preference would be let's do the public hearing first, because I have questions, but they can build on others' questions. And I don't want to steal the questions from members of the public who came here to make a point to ask those questions.
I'm good with
We're
that
here
as long as
no matter what
what's the
anyways.
agenda. We good with that?
I'm good with that.
Okay, all right. Are any community members here to ask specific questions? Maybe that was a good point.
Darn, that took away that.
Always good to check. Okay, Kalina, do you want to start then?
Sure. All right. Matt, I know I sent you stuff earlier and very kindly responded. A couple of things I'm just going to reiterate. One of the things I noticed is this year 53% of the of our revenue is coming from local sources, which would be local property taxes. And then you and I kind of talked on this. That is a recent change where the local is now the largest portion versus the state. And I just had asked if you could just expand a little bit on that, of what has happened over time to flip that.
Yeah, and very good question. Going back to one of the foundational formulas of school finance, revenue limit authority is the amount of money that any school district can receive in a given fiscal year. Once we have that number, the difference between state aid and the revenue limit is passed on to our taxpayers in the tax levy. So if you remember back to the previous biennium budget, one of the state budget decisions was to not increase the state aid pot by any percent or any dollar amount, which means that as the revenue limit authority moves up with the increases of the $325 per pupil spending, the difference between that and the tax levy is state aid, and if that's not going up, that increase is passed on to our taxpayers in the form of the local sources that you're talking about, Kalina. So that recent change really is coming from the state budget decision not to fund state aid.
Yep, always fun talking about state funding. Flipping to an even more fun topic, federal funding. And you mentioned that the Title I funding changed, and then again, in kind of our back and forth, you mentioned that the deadline for contract renewal on our side had already passed when the change came from the federal government, that we would be getting less Title, I think it was Title I, and another one I didn't note, funding for this year. And so short term made the decision to pull from the general fund, and then long term, when we have our new superintendent, assistant superintendent of operations, sounds like maybe winter into spring, we'll be identifying what are some possible long term solutions to that. The question I had was, can that funding only be used for staffing? And you said, no, we can use it for other purposes within those schools. Is that some great practice to, sounds like, largely use it for staffing?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, we receive an allocation every year from the federal government for Title I and Title IV, which is the other title that we were talking about. Historically, Prairie has used that for staffing within our title schools. We do have other purchases that we've made over the years for different services or supplies that we felt were necessary in those schools. But yes, going forward, we'll have to monitor this as the title pot is not growing. So it'll be something that we'll continue to talk to senior leaders on.
And that's not atypical. It is pretty typical that most title funds go into providing staffing for interventions, because the purpose of title funding is to provide additional instructional resources to schools with higher levels of poverty. So that's pretty typical, and that's been the process. But when you have staffing, equitable staffing based around title funds, and then those title funds decrease, there's no way around them decreasing the amount of services you're using with those funds. And that's the predicament we're in right now.
And then the last one I had is that, again, in the screencast, which thank you, for the screencast, watched that sitting on my patio the other day, turned it on, my husband's like, "We really do this right here." And I'm like, "Yep, you can learn about it too. You're a community member and a taxpayer, you should learn this too." But you said the voucher program, we crossed $1 million this year of kind of serving as the pass-through, and we've now hit the $1 million level. And Brennan, I know I mentioned this to you as well. I got more from that in that cap, it's gone up by 1% each year for the last 10 years, and we're now at 10%, and that's where it's been. But then, Brennan, you've mentioned this before, the cap is now coming off. So going back to this, if we were at 10% this year, are we seeing that full 10% get utilized right now?
So that is not information that I have, but I will try to find.
Okay.
That's kind of the $1 million question for a lot of school districts right now, is as this cap is coming off.
Right.
Where have we been in the last decade? Has it been pushing that percentage? Or are we below it, or maybe it's not as huge of an issue as we're thinking? So I will look into that and follow up with the board once I find out.
Okay. Brennan, I don't know if you guys have had conversations in the other organizations you're in about, like, do other districts have forecasts or predictions of how severely they think this will impact budgets?
Well, it'll really depend on how many private schools get added into the voucher program in the following year. Now that there aren't enrollment caps, that they probably will. I know we've talked at length about the fact that the Madison Diocese has just recently decided that they're gonna start taking vouchers, so that Dane County has been fairly insulated. There's only like 12 voucher schools in Dane County right now. But that number will probably increase. I know there's like 3 districts who are like at the capacity of the 10% enrollment, and most of the rest of them are not, but I don't know what that will look like. I mean, there's still some counties that don't have private schools at all.
Right.
So it'll vary based on where I think we are in the state. And eventually the income caps will also come up. So.
What is that?
So right now you can get a voucher if you are at, I think it's 220% of the poverty level.
Yes, I believe that's correct. Yeah.
But eventually that will also go away, so there's no cap.
There's no cap anywhere.
And just for the board and the community, voucher really impacts our tax levy more than anything, because we have to levy for the voucher deduction that essentially is then put onto our taxpayers. So not only is this cap making us more vulnerable to future levy hikes, but it's also taking kids that may have otherwise been attending some Prairie schools are now able to attend a voucher program.
Yeah.
Enrollment will come down, which impacts budget, staffing, and stuff.
Right, and what I just wanted to mention is when people get their tax bill, to Bryn's point earlier, it's not bracketed out. So it looks like the school district is taking that $1 million and using it for our own operations, when essentially it's just flowing through. And so part of the transparency push is to help people understand that that's $1 million of levy that we're not receiving for our schools here in Sun Prairie, but it's going on the tax bill as if we are. And if it increases, right, the concern is even more, like there's a more significant portion of every person's property taxes that is labeled on the tax bill as coming to us, but we don't have access to it. It's just funneling through us.
That was what I had. Thank you, all of you.
Yeah, first off, thanks for the presentation and for the reports, and also congratulations on the baby. I hope that's going well.
Thank you very much. Yes, I'm learning every day.
Yeah. So I guess thanks, Kalina, for all those questions, because you took a lot of mine, which is great. I guess my only remaining question is kind of more like a probing philosophy thing for you about like our fund balance. Like, do we have a target that we're like shooting for besides just kind of comparing to our comparable districts, especially with all the potential like uncertainties in the future with, you know, the special ed reimbursement rates being kind of fluffy, the Title I funds, like federal funding and state funding, et cetera. Yeah, how are you thinking about the fund balance, especially trying to wrap it up with all of the other formula things that you have to worry about?
Yeah, I believe policy in Sunbury is 15%, so we're above 15%, which is great. We're still average, but as our costs continue to go up, that percentage is going to become more and more important to keep up with the increased expenses. So last year, our budget was 164 million. The proposed 26-27 budget is 167 million. So if we're not adding to that fund balance, or at least figuring out a way to work through that long term, that percent could continue to decline. Again, over the last 2 years, we have added to the fund balance, which has been great. I just think it's going to become more and more important as federal funding and state funding becomes more and more of a mystery. So no specific goal. Happy to work with the board if we want to talk through that. As of right now, we just like to have a long-term conservative approach to that fund balance.
And I think what's written in policy is the 15% because that's the drop that cannot go below, right? We know we can make the budget continue to work, maintaining 15%. At one point, I think it was 10, and we increased it to 15 because we've perennially been able to maintain it above 15. Ideally, the fund balance provides enough liquidity that we end up not having to short-term borrow. So right now, because of the calendar, because of the schedule in which money comes into public school districts in Wisconsin, we have periods where we're not getting any payments. And during those periods, the bank balance runs low enough that we have to short-term borrow to pay that month's bills. We know because it's promised to us from the state or from the federal government, we know funds are coming in, but their distribution schedule doesn't match our expense schedule. And so in order to cover that gap, we have to short-term borrow. Ideally, our fund balance will be high enough that it would limit the amount of short-term borrowing we have to do, even eliminate it would be great because we're incurring interest costs to do that. So if we get our fund balance up to the point where we don't have to short-term borrow, the money that we're currently spending on short-term interest could go to other things. But right now we have the budget to pay short-term interest on those short-term loans to pay the bills in months where we're not getting money from property taxes or state aid.
So I'd be happy to look into what that percent would be to be able to eliminate short-term borrowing if we wanted to talk through that. But as of right now, that'd be no specific target.
Gotcha. Yeah, thank you.
I don't actually have any questions on this. I was just going to flag for Dr. Turner and Dr. Reed that some of the wonderings, or at least my wonderings and some of the past ones have just been about if we could have a discussion at some point, and other people have said this as well about the class size ratios and the FTE needs based on, or FTE based on enrollment as well as needs, because we've had some discussion over that in the past. So I wanted to put that on the radar.
I don't have any questions, but I have an ask. And I'm just thinking about this as we were talking about the fund balance and the fact that we have so many new board members and staff. We haven't had Baird come in a while, or PMA, and to talk to us about our debt structure and what that looks like and like when things are getting paid off and all of that fun, interesting stuff. And I wonder if it would be worthwhile trying to find time to have that conversation, or at least have that be information that can be shared with the whole board. I think it helps understand a little bit of the budget and some of that information that comes on the tax bill as well about referendums.
Yeah, happy to coordinate that whenever the board sees fit. I think it's been a couple of years since Baird's been in, and for the newer board members, the previous referendum, we were very strategic with our partners at Robert W. Baird to layer in the referendum to limit the tax impact on a year-to-year basis. So I do think that'd be helpful, and would be happy to hear from whoever on when a good time would be to bring them in.
I also don't have any questions. I think I asked kind of last time around, and some others have brought to light a few other things, which is great. I would just say I would be interested in knowing what we would need our fund balance to be to eliminate short term. I don't know what that is and how crazy math that is, but, that'd be interesting to know. So just echoing that comment.
Yeah, and I'm wondering too, we usually bring, if I remember right, cash flow borrowing agenda item in February, I think. So that may be a good time, we're already doing those calculations to then be able to bring that percentage to the board.
Thank you. I don't have any questions, but thank you for the presentation.
Problem.
Yeah, me neither. I mean, it's always like kind of confusing to kind of know about stuff, but like pie charts and everything else.
I'm trying to add more graphs and charts and formulas, so glad that you're looking.
As predicted, most of my questions were taken. To expand on just a couple things, I'll admit it pains me as a state employee to say that's a government employee, but it's hard to watch the funds, the limited amount of funds coming in from the state and federal level, and I can't encourage people enough to reach out to the legislators, encouraging that we get more support from our state and federal legislators to help our school districts, because it's tough, and the cost of living is increasing, and I'll be honest, I'm terrified that we're gonna bleed out people from that bill to live in this community and have their kids enrolled in this school by the ever increasing costs on our property taxes and on our tax bills with both state and federal and the limited amount of help that we're getting in. I would very much like to encourage all of the school administrators and directors we have sitting in this room, anyone who's watching, to start really putting our heads together in creative ways that we can find ways to save money, where we can condense, combine, without sacrificing the needs of our students, especially the students in our title schools. I feel like those schools tend to be the ones that get hit the most when it comes to student shortages and staffing issues, and it scares me, the future. And I say this person who lives in the school, who has students in the school, just economically where we're going as a district and as a community and as a state and as a country. I really encourage us to, because I worry if future levy increases, future revenues, how that's going to affect the budgets and the ability for our community members to continue to own houses and to thrive in this community. Because I'll say as a person, I'm struggling already with the cost of living in this community. So I really, really hope that we can start looking at ways to help out a little bit and maybe reduce some of these expenses or find ways to make things work a little cheaper if possible.
Thanks for that.
And also congratulations, and I'm impressed you put all this together with just having a friend in your home.
Thank you very much.
I imagine you're probably getting a little more sleep than your wife, but.
A little more, so I can do budget presentations.
But can you thank her for allowing you to get a little more sleep and do all this side work when you're trying to be the new dad at home as well?
I will do that, thanks.
Yeah, I don't have questions, just a few points of gratitude, really just to build on everyone's already said. Thank you for being here tonight. And I just really thought the presentation was nicely paced, like you included a lot of really good foundational information. So encourage anyone at home, the screencast is recorded, it's linked in the agenda. It was about 20-ish minutes long. You can put it on 1.5 if you're at home. Like just listen to it, it's good information, and there are a lot of good charts and graphs and things in there. So I encourage folks to take advantage of the fact that we do it in a recorded way that people can access as fits their schedule. And then also thanks to Bryn for highlighting the voucher costs, because you asked for that in the last meeting, and that was really interesting to see the rising costs in that graph. Yeah, so thank you for that. And maybe we can get back to that, because I think it's the city that needs to help us. We need to partner with the city to do the transparency on the tax bill. So that might be something interesting to talk about when we meet with them in a couple of weeks. Hopefully that can fit into that conversation. And then also, I think the only thing that everyone else didn't already cover that I had been thinking about was just gratitude to the community for their support of that referendum. I know it was a couple of years ago, but just seeing what a place it's putting us in today to be able to serve our kids really well, that referendum was successful, especially as federal funding is becoming questionable.
And also just a reminder that we aren't levying the full amount that we, by our authority would be allowed to levy right now. So we're keeping our promise that we're only gonna levy what we need to levy in order to take care of our kids and meet our commitments and keep up with CPIU paying our staff appropriately. So just thank you for the referendum and acknowledging that we're keeping up our end of that bargain as we move forward and making sure to try and be as aware of our taxpayers' needs as we are of our students' needs, because that can be a tough balance. Yeah. Okay, and then the last point, just of note on the community connection part, was we tried to advertise this public hearing better. I think I saw more notices about it. I see some people here to listen, even if they're not up here asking any questions or here present with us, which is fantastic. And so if there's ideas, again, feel free to email us or talk to a board member if you have ideas of how we can spread the word better when there's opportunities like this to engage and to learn and to hear about what's going on with the budget. And our annual meeting is on October 5th. So feel free, if anyone's watching at home, that's another great opportunity to come out and ask questions and learn more about what we're doing with our finances. That's all I got, no questions for you. So thanks for being here.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. I'm gonna go back to the agenda again now. Okay, so then we're at matters reserved for board action. We have 6.01 is our independent hearing officer, and I think, Nick, are you going to give us just the summary of what that is?
Yes, Dr. Reed asked me to put together the presentation or the situation report that was linked in the agenda for tonight. Since 2022, the district has utilized an expulsion hearing officer format to hear student expulsions. That was after a school year where it was becoming more and more difficult to coordinate people's schedules for hearing expulsions as a panel. Just to keep in mind, if the board does that, which is one of the options allowable by law, the entire school board can hear an expulsion. We're coordinating the 7 school board members' schedules. We're coordinating with the family. We're coordinating with an attorney. We're coordinating with district administration. And so it's just getting harder and harder to coordinate all of those schedules. As a part of just reviewing that, we brought forward the concept of a hearing officer. So that replaces the 7 board members from needing to be present at the hearing, and the independent hearing officer instead hears the information regarding the potential expulsion and makes a ruling on whether or not to expel the student. Then within 30 days, if the independent hearing officer does issue an expulsion, it's still reviewed by the board, and the board retains the ability to reverse, sustain, that's not the right word, or modify the expulsion order issued by the hearing officer. So it doesn't remove the school board's decision-making authority, but what it does is it streamlines the hearing to that independent hearing officer. We've used a school attorney in the past to conduct those. And then the board in closed session always has the ability to review any expulsion that the hearing officer does issue and either uphold it, change it, or reject it. And so this is coming forward. This has to be done before any expulsion. So it's done typically annually every summer in July or August for the coming school year. I think Bryn and Diana may be the only 2 board members with experience in hearing an expulsion back before 2022. So happy to answer any questions or have the 2 of you provide more information for the board members as they consider this for 26, 27.
Would anyone like to make a motion for discussion?
I'll make a motion that the school board of the Sun Prairie Area School District hereby authorizes the appointment of an independent hearing officer for the 2026-27 school year to hear and decide pupil expulsions under state statute 119.25(2), expulsion of pupils. The hearing officer shall expel a pupil from school whenever it is determined that the pupil engaged in a conduct that constitutes grounds for expulsion under Wisconsin statutes 120.13(1)(c)(1) or 2, or 120.13 14(1)(c)(2)(m). If the hearing officer orders the expulsion of the pupil within 30 days of the issuance of the order, the school board shall review the order and shall, upon review, approve, reverse, or modify the order.
And then actually it's that next paragraph too.
Oh, okay. District administration shall secure contracts with a qualified independent hearing officer for pupil expulsion hearings for the 2026-27 school year.
Second.
Okay, wonderful. And then Bryn, did you want to add anything just in terms of experience from past, like the other option, I guess? Yeah.
Yeah, so that 1 year, we had many expulsions. So what I have found it's having sat through many expulsion hearings, they're very emotional, especially for board members who are not used to having to hear from families and kids. And so the independent hearing officer, I believe, has allowed us to be much more consistent with that process. And it's also not dependent on who's there, who's not there. Always go back to the time where we, if it's multiple kids for the same incident, then it's sometimes hard to have the same people there for everything. I felt like it just legality wise, there's much more that the independent hearing officer knows and can do when they're running that hearing than the board does. And so it feels like there's a lot more consistency. And while in here, I'll just say too, like, I do think that it's important through those several years of expulsions, like the board was able to come to a place where we were, like, administration knew very well, and as did the independent hearing officer, what we were looking for in expulsion orders. How long that they would be out for, whether or not they came back to a building, how they came back to a building, what their educational chances were while they were expelled and out of the building, because we often do not expel kids. Like, we don't just say, we're done with you and you're never coming back to a building. And so I do think that that's an important discussion that the board needs to have with Dr. Reed and Dr. Turner, so that we can come to a consensus as a new group of board members about what our expectations are, so that it doesn't used to come to us and then we would nitpick through the expulsion order. And this way the expectation is already there before the order comes to us and we have issues with it. So either way we do it, I think it's an important discussion for us to have, since we're the ultimate approvers of an expulsion.
I think this is a great idea for consistency, and just the concerns that were brought up before. My one question is, I think last year when we did this, we also approved the person, and I don't see that we're approving a person this time. Is that just because we are not sure yet, or?
So last time we shared the person who has typically done the expulsion or hearings. There was no language. I don't believe there was any language in actually approving her, because she may or may not have been available for every expulsion hearing, but we did share that information last time. I was asked to put this together to make sure we could get it on the agenda. Celebration, we haven't had an expulsion in over a year. So we have not worked with the person who had been doing the expulsions in over a year. I don't know if she's still available or willing to do that. I also wanted to give Dr. Reed and Dr. Turner an opportunity to weigh in on who they might want to work with. So I just, due to timing and everything else, and the gap between when we last had an expulsion hearing and now, that's why I just included, and I think it's the same verbiage as previous years, where administration pending approval tonight would be empowered to go and obtain a hearing officer. So that's why it might look a little bit different than last year.
Totally fine.
Yeah.
All good. Thank you.
No questions.
I didn't have a question. Now my interest is piqued, saying you had a year that there were a lot of expulsions and then a year that we had none. And so I just, yeah.
So the year of a lot of expulsions was 22-23. 22, it was the year when we were all back full in person for the first time post-pandemic. There was a lot of difficulty in regulating and being back together in spaces. And we did have an increased number of expulsions. But in 25-26, we had 0. In 24-25, we had 2. And so we have been on a downward trend since then. I think due to a lot of the additional systems and supports that have been put in place, and plus just the post-pandemic settling has really made a difference.
That was maybe my only thought when you talk about what comes back to the board, of the outcomes, obviously outcomes for the students, but then probably important for us to look at, are there any like systemic failures here or any things that we can look at? How could we have, what could the system have done earlier in this process to maybe have shifted that path? But we'll have that conversation. Thank you.
I think that.
Yeah, I think we covered it pretty well. But thank you, because I made a note for, yeah, we should readdress that conversation in terms of what's the standard. Because I know I have in my head like the criteria that have been used in the past. But the nice thing is that if an expulsion does come forward, then that conversation does still come to the board. But then we're not deliberating in front of the child and family. So we still do end up asking questions around like, how did this come through our system? Like, how did we get here, and kind of trace it back and ask some of those systemic questions, but we're not asking them with each other in front of a child who's feeling not fantastic while we talk about systemic issues. So I found that it seems to work pretty well. Yeah, okay. Any other second or these questions people? Can we do a roll call vote on this one, please?
Okay, Grayson,
Yes.
Horton,
Yes.
McFarland,
Yes.
Stephen,
Yes.
Sung,
Yes.
Blumenkamp, yes, and Davis.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
Wonderful. And then we're at 6.02, the 26-27 school board annual planning calendar. I know we just talked about this, but then we had a retreat and had a lot of thoughts. So even though it's a working document and we're not going to bring it to the full board for conversation every single time we change one little piece, we did come up with a draft based on the feedback we heard at the retreat. So we just wanted to kind of bring that more complete draft for the year forward and see if there was any additional comments or adjustments that we want to make before this becomes our plan. And I know we talked about this essentially being our plan from now through about January, because it's going to be a little bit different than we've done in the past, and then we'll reassess again and see what we want the spring to look like in more detail. So you'll see the spring is pretty empty, but the fall we have some consulting plans for, and we can just go from there. And I know Melissa had a couple, this is your deal. So.
Yeah, I did have a question about, for the retreat, was there a feeling of liking having it split over those 2 days versus in the past? There had been like a long day retreat versus 2 days. Do people like it in the evening? And, okay, wonderful.
I would say my input as a working parent of children who are busy, it helps to have it broken out over multiple times and just evening hours versus having to take PTO time when I'm already using it for my children and for my personal reasons, and it's limited as a full-time employee. I think it was nice to be accommodating towards working parents.
Great, that's what we were thinking. So I think that'll be the plan for the next retreat. It would be either a Monday and a Monday, or maybe a Monday and a Tuesday, depending on what people's schedules are and what works in the evenings. And then August 10th, would the 11th or the 13th of August work for everybody instead of the 10th? Because that was when we were going to bring all the committee members together and like get to know each other, kind of get the committee thing initiated and like pre-planning. But Adam wasn't going to be available on the August 10th, so just throwing it out there in case. The 11th
would not work for me.
Okay.
The 12th will not work for me. Are you talking for the whole board meeting?
Or just the committee?
Yeah, no, so we were thinking about using August, we had originally aimed at August 10th, but now we're seeing when, according to Adam's availability, to have that be the kickstart of the committee process that we had talked about doing, so utilizing that time, because we had it all saved, right? Like we all knew we were available. We were gonna see if Adam could come back and basically continue the conversation that we had started, but operationalize it with us. Because, right, we talked a lot of theory and nice concepts. How about this as an idea? But we need to figure out how we're actually going to do it and get it up and rolling. And we thought it might be nice to have Adam there to bridge theory to practice, since he was there when we conceptualized it and he's seen it work really well in other districts. But he wasn't available the 10th. He said he's available any other night that week. So we were looking at sounds like 11th is a no-go, but how does the 13th look? And we could just shift potentially that meeting.
So we would have a board meeting and a meeting on the 13th?
We would just trade.
Nothing.
Yeah,
Okay.
instead of the 10th, we would just move that meeting night to the 13th if it worked for us collectively as a group. I know this isn't usually open meeting time, but.
Wasn't the 10th supposed to be a regular meeting?
Yes, so if you look, actually, that's a good segue, just how about we review what's here. So we talked about moving into this committee structure. So if you look at the draft that's here, then essentially the first, what had normally been regular meeting of the month would be a committee meeting. Which when I think about it, like in my terminology, going from where we've been to where I think we're going, would essentially be like the superintendent reports. Segment of a normal regular board meeting would then all happen in the committee format. So anything informational but not voted on that night, any working concepts, any discussion concepts, but we're not deciding on the concept that night. And this is why we have to operationalize it with Adam, because I'm making some assumptions here, but I think that's kind of where we're going. So the first meeting of the month would be a committee meeting. The second regular meeting of the month would be like our business items and our voting items. So that's what we have drafted in here as our plan from now through January to give this a try and see if we like how that feels. And then go.
In 2.04, we already approved an August 10 meeting of the agenda, so I don't know how we can.
We can revise it if needed.
Because, like we already made a motion and approved 2.01, 2.02, 2.03, 2.04, 2.04 included the August 10, 17th, and 24th.
We can revise it if needed. But this is, so the other point that I'll just note from a draft standpoint is instead of the governance meeting then on the third week, we had talked about giving that time essentially back, saying we've been committing that 2 hours, but we're not going to use it in that way anymore. And that will be the time for committees to meet independently. So it may not be on the Monday, like you essentially get that Monday time back. At least some months, because I'll point out in some months like April and May, we might still want to hold what had been a governance meeting in terms of like a board reorg. Let's talk about our priorities. Let's do our evaluation. So there may still be months where we want to do it. We could also use that time we kind of penciled in using it for the superintendent evaluation instead of finding another extra night. Then maybe that night rolls into those things that have been like add-ons and then just fit. So I think it's kind of going along with what we had talked about at retreat in terms of being really efficient with our time, thinking about ways to have kind of that community connection time and be efficient with our regular business meeting time. So that's kind of the overall flow, but this is why we want Adam. That's why the question about Adam, because it would be great to have this conversation with that support from the consultant so that we can get this really honed in how we want it to. So that would be the kickoff, would be in August, we could talk more in more detail as a group about exactly how we want this all to work. So this was just kind of a penciled in iteration for now. That makes sense?
So to answer your original question, the 13th would be for me. I don't know about everyone else.
Okay. Without any complaints, then we will plan on moving the August 10th meeting. We'll shift it to August 13th. We'll get a hold of Adam and get that set up and we'll share more. And then we'll just notice our meeting accordingly.
Do we need to do another motion then, because we already made a motion on the August 10th meeting?
Would you like to?
Not particularly, I'm asking procedural questions, since we already made a motion and decision on that date.
This is the annual planning calendar on the agenda, so if you want to include as part of the motion for approval of the agenda, that we are going to move the August, what had been the August 10th meeting to August 13th. This is on board action for annual planning calendar, so we can amend our calendar accordingly in this agenda item. I think so.
Motion. I will make a motion to approve the new version of the 2026-27 school board annual planning calendar, which includes moving the August 10th regular board meeting to August 13th.
Second. I'm doing all in favor on this one? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, fantastic. And then we have 6.03 is the implementation of the 2026-27 wage adjustment. Nick, did you want to?
Sure, and so this would be, if approved tonight, board approval for 26-27 wage adjustments for 3 of our 4 employee groups. This would be support staff, administrative support, and administrators. If you watched Matt's brilliant screencast, you know that 2.63% has been budgeted for, and so this is in line with what he has in his budget. You will notice that it does not include professional educators, as noted in the situation report, and for people at home. Professional educators are subject to the negotiations process with the Sun Prairie Education Association, and they have requested a date later in summer, early fall to engage in the negotiations process. But the longer we wait, the more back pay that has to be processed, and the longer that all of the other employees, right, we have about 1,300 employees, about 700 or 800 of them are teachers. We have about 500 other employees who are looking for their salary increases or wage increases for July 1st. So we're already past that initial payroll time. So we're bringing this forward for consideration. If it's approved tonight, then Matt and Chris and their teams would work to get people made whole for July so far who are already working. As you know, teachers don't start their contract until the very end of August anyway, so there is time for Dr. Reed and the new Assistant Superintendent of Operations to engage with SPEA later in the summer.
I'd like to make a motion to implement the 2.63% compensation adjustment on the individual base salary of each employee and the support staff, including coaches and advisors, administrative support, and administrative employee groups, according to the current compensation framework for each employee group effective July 1st, 2026.
I'll second that.
So motion by Horton, second by Molenkamp. Do you have any comments or questions on this one? All right, can we roll call please?
Okay, Horton? Yes. McFarland?
Yes.
Stephen?
Yes.
Sun?
Yes.
Molenkamp?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes.
And Grayson.
Yes.
All right, motion carries.
Wonderful. And then we're at our board consent agenda. If someone wants to make that motion as well.
I'll make a motion to approve the board consent agenda 7.01 and 7.02.
Second. Motion by Sun, second by Grayson. All in favor? Aye. Wonderful. And then we are at our debrief.
Yeah, this one's fun because I believe the last regular board meeting might have been the shortest ever on record. I don't know, I'm just guessing. But it was like a record short meeting because we were moving into our retreat. So only 2 people left a review, left a survey response, which is totally fine, given the circumstances, and most people were very happy with that, or everyone was, the 2 people that responded. And they also said they left the retreat, and the facilitator, our consultant who was there, had him. So yeah, that's all that was in the debrief. Oh, and moving forward, speaking of Adam, he made a suggestion that we kind of switch out how we do our board debrief moving forward. I was wondering if we wanted to have that conversation about it right now, or do that at a later time, or it might be better for later. But anyway.
I would just say that I trust your judgment as the governance officer to take that feedback and do with it as you will, since
Okay.
that's one of your things. So
That's-
unless anyone has another thought, if you have thoughts on how to adjust the debrief according to your feedback, I would always support you.
Sure, that sounds good.
Fantastic. And I wanted to acknowledge that Nick got in a little zinger in this last board meeting. You made us all laugh earlier. I forget exactly what it was, but and thank you for everything that you've done for the Prairie Area School District, knowing that you're moving into new adventures. So just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge that. Any other comments? Questions? Thoughts?
Thanks, Nick.
I will motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Have a great night, everybody.